Hi everyone, welcome to Girls Guide to God. My name is Alexa and I'm the host of this podcast. While it is called A Girls Guide to God, this podcast I really hope can be received by anybody. Actually, this episode specifically that we just recorded, I think is a little friendlier to people who are checking out Christianity for the first time or wouldn't call themselves Christians yet. I interviewed two of my friends about this amazing experience they had. So a group of high schoolers flew all the way to Brazil to put on a week-long summer camp for some kids there who had been previously living on the streets. And these kids have had previously really tough lives. They've seen a lot. They've seen drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and they've just been living really tough lives. And this week, a lot of them say is their favorite week of the entire year, and sometimes it's the only or the closest experience they'll ever have with interacting with the Holy Spirit and God and other Christians. And yeah, in this episode, my friends are just sharing their experiences on this trip.
Hi, I'm Bridget. Thanks for having me, Alexa.
Hi, I'm Adrian.
Okay, so we're actually here today because they just went on this really cool trip. So my first question, and I'm just gonna interview them about it and have them share their experiences, and you guys can both answer it. One of you guys can answer it, and just pitch in whenever you want. So my first question is just tell me about the trip. What did you do? Where did you go? Who was there? Who, what, when, where, and why?
So we went to Brazil for about 9 days, and we partnered with an organization called Hope Unlimited, which aims to take in kids from that previously lived on the streets or are from families that can't really take care of them. They were involved with drug trafficking or just really violent backgrounds. And Hope Unlimited takes them in and helps them work through that trauma and that baggage, gives them housing and a family and education, and basically preps them for adulthood. And our job for that week was to help out at a summer camp that they host every summer for the kids. And we just shared the love of God with them and spent time with them, and we were kind of a role model and helped the whole team set up and prepare for the rest of the year and stuff.
Yeah, so Hope Unlimited is a little bit different than a traditional foster care system, and in that all the kids, they live together with designated house parents who sign contracts for maybe 10 years or something to facilitate their growth. And I think as of recent with Hope Unlimited, the government sends most of the kids to them, and it's up to the kids to choose how long they really want to stay past 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about the camp you guys ran for the kids. What were the activities? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so it was kind of similar to a church camp for all of us, where there's sermons and small group and devotions and team games. And since this is my second time going on this mission trip, I was in charge of the field games.
Ooh.
So that was really fun. We did some pretty creative things. And we played a lot of soccer, and we did capture the flag. Just spending time with them and getting to know them.
Okay, so also tell me more about the kids. Was there a language barrier? Because I'm assuming most of them couldn't speak English, and most of you guys can't speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
And more just about the kids individually.
Yeah, so we did Duolingo for 2 months in Portuguese, so that we could kind of communicate basic phrases for for example thank you or excuse me, stuff stuff like that. But we did have around 7-8 translators there with us. So whenever we wanted to talk to the kids, we would tell the translator what we were saying, and then the translator would translate it. Or we would use Google Translate if we had our phones. I think most of us didn't have our phones all week. So yeah, and if the translator wasn't present, there was just a lot of pointing and also saying this, that, you, me, you, yeah.
Okay, and when you guys were having conversations with the kids, what did you guys typically talk about?
We tried to get to know them on a personal level, but it was kind of hard. We kind of just asked them like, oh, do you like, I mean, I would say it's, a lot of our conversations were pretty surface level, like we couldn't go super deep, but during devotions we definitely got to like share our perspectives and stuff like that. And I feel like even though we couldn't like really get deep with them and have like super meaningful conversations, like worshiping with them and just learning together was just as impactful.
Yeah, so for our little team, me and Bridget were in the same team. Our translator was just really, really busy the entire trip. So sometimes he wouldn't really be there because he was like busy, organizing other important things. So it was really hard to get deep with kids, but some conversations we would like talk about their families or like who they're living with, and a lot of also like their interests. I think with some kids we just started talking about anime and like K-pop, and that was pretty cool.
I heard you learned a dance for them, a K-pop dance for them. What was like that all about?
We had a talent show and we took it very seriously, and I really admire that. Adrian really like gave it his all. He would do anything so that we win. And yeah, we both learned the Jisoo flower dance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna like take a step back. Why did you guys originally like choose to go in the first place?
So throughout my high school career, I've done like a lot of community service. So it's like hundreds of hours. But a lot of it, for me, it felt like really like transactional. Like I go here, I do something for this person, and then they're like, okay, thank you so much, and I get hours, right? But like this trip to Brazil, it's more of like a transformation. So instead of going there, like organizing this camp, I mean, that we are doing that, but at the same time, we're also connecting with these kids and we're also being a part of their peer culture that they have, where like each kid is able to influence others to really help break this cycle of like, how do I say, like
going back to violence.
Going back to violence or like going back to the streets.
Can you guys tell me more about the violence and going back to the streets?
Yeah, we got to talk to the house parents about it, who are like really involved in the kids' lives. And it's like a big problem in Brazil that a lot of drug trafficking organizations take in like these young kids and have them basically like deliver the drugs from like one party to another. And that's a very common experience that a lot of these kids went through, as well as like abusive families or just like alcoholic parents, drug abusing parents. Um, they've been exposed to a lot of like horrible things and crime, and like some kids are like their parents are prostitutes, or just like a bunch of really messy things. So yeah, hope kind of takes them in and breaks that cycle so they don't become like their parents.
Okay, can you guys talk like a little bit more about the impact like you guys were trying to make like on the kids that were there?
Like I mentioned earlier about the peer culture that they have at Hope. It's just like each of us are trying to show these kids like the love of God, and also just be there, be present, talk to them, be their friend as well. And it's just trying to get them to really open up a bit and also just have a better relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of there, like volunteering at a camp for us may sound just like an easy thing, like a not very impactful thing, but this week for a lot of the kids is like the best week of the year for them, and it's one of the closest times in the year that they can be with God, like where they're just surrounded by God-loving people and really exposed to better influences. So I think our job is kind of to set like to be a role model for them on what it's like to love Christ and just share the love with them.
Okay, and since we're kind of on the topic of impact and serving, you guys mentioned there was like a verse and I'm in, what is it, Psalms chapter 116. What was it, verse 12?
12, yeah.
Okay, does one of you want to like read it and explain like what it meant to you guys, like how you guys kind of use it?
So it's, what shall I render to the Lord for all his benefits to me? And that was kind of like the camp theme for the entire week. And
That's what they're teaching the kids,
Yeah.
but us as well.
but for me, it just, the first thing I thought of when I saw that line was just how intentionally they picked this line just for this camp. Like a lot of these kids, they haven't really seen that much love, and they just, or they don't know too much about like God's goodness or like what God has given them. So they're just teaching them about gratitude and accepting this love, because for a lot of these kids, like accepting the love is like a barrier they have to go through, because some of them, after they go to Hope, right, they eat like a couple meals, they play some soccer, and then they just run away because they're not used to it. They're not used to having like 3 meals a day, for example, or like loving people all around them. So
Okay. So how was God? How would you guys say like God was working in you guys when you were there?
I really liked being a part of their like sermon and worship time for the Brazilians, because they really pour out their heart to God. Like they had a night where they just called like anyone who wants to bring something to God, like come and kneel at the stage. And these kids were like, I would be scared to go up there, but they like went down and they were kneeling. They were just like crying out to God and really pouring out their souls. And I think it's really impactful to see like how much love God has for them and for us. And yeah, it's just really sweet to see their like transformation in their relationship with the Lord.
yeah, and also like you're talking about worship, like the worship there is crazy.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's crazy.
It's not like worship here, right? It's like,
You're just
stand up, you
standing,
sing, right?
Yeah.
Over there, it's like a rave. It's like a mosh pit. It's crazy.
Yeah, everyone's like standing at the top of their lungs
That's
and
amazing.
You start running around in circles,
Yeah,
like
they just-
around the entire room.
it was like a train. Yeah, I just love their energy. And sometimes when we have like slower songs and stuff, you just see kids like these two boys in front of us during one worship night. They were just embracing each other, and like I could see that some of them were crying, and it's just really like it's sad to see that they have to go through so much at such a young age, but it's really sweet to see how they're there for each other. Like they really treat each other like siblings, and they just care for each other a lot.
So how would you say like are you gonna like how are you like different from when you like first came into the trip, if you know what I mean?
One thing I noticed was just, you know how people always say like, oh, it's such a small world, but like it's also like a really big world. Like we're traveling 24 hours from here in California all the way down to Brazil, and it's like such a long journey. You go there like 3-hour bus ride, 2 different flights. Like sometimes we have like a layover or something, but yeah, like it just feels like a completely different environment there, and you're seeing these people that are like so different from you, and it's like you feel, I don't know how to say this, but living here, if like it shows how like blessed we are to have like all of these people around us, like loving parents, right? But going there, it's just completely different.
Yeah. And I feel like going into the trip, we had to raise $2,500 for this trip.
Okay, wait, talk more about that.
Yeah, and a part of me was just like, how impactful are we even gonna be for these kids? Is it just better to send like all this money to them and give them more resources? But I just learned how like important it is that we were there for them. Like just the time and the effort and the energy that we gave them, I think meant a lot to the kids. And yeah, it was a great reminder to how like irreplaceable and special it is to just care for other people rather than like giving them material things or stuff like that.
Yeah, and also to like build onto that, all of us going, we're like high school students. And this camp is like super, super high energy. These kids are super hyper. I think if you took like the same team of a bunch of like adults, or like, I don't know, it'd just be a lot different because
Yeah.
it's just really hard to keep up that energy. I know like even us, we were like exhausted by the end of just the first day. And by the end of the week, everyone was just like either like borderline sick or like
Yeah.
just
Or full on
just
sick.
like dead. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you're like 24 hours, 3-hour bus rides. So you're spending a lot of time with like this group of high schoolers that you guys are going with. So like how did you get closer? Like did you get closer with the people you were serving with and like do you like what would you guys have to say about like the community?
Mhm. Well, our church really was pretty particular with choosing like the right group of people for this trip. Like they really wanted all of us to be, intentional in serving the kids and to care about that. And I really feel like we got to know almost everyone on the trip. And you can get close to someone in like 5 days.
Yeah.
Like I knew Adrian for a while before the trip, but I feel like we only had one conversation before this
Yeah.
trip. And since we were on the same team, I got to know him, and I feel like we're super close now. Like you just, it's a great community to be with like-minded people and just people with a heart to serve and a heart for the Lord. So yeah, I think you make really like long-lasting friendships on this trip.
Yeah, you're like spending every moment with these people for like 9 days. So you get to, like, especially your roommates, you get to know them a little bit too well.
Okay, and you guys keep mentioning team. Like, what is team for the people? Like, what is the, like the different teams for the people who don't know?
Like at camp.
Yeah.
Oh, so I feel like this is pretty common at church camps too, where like for the week you're divided into a few different teams and you compete with them and you do the devotions with them. And so our like church team was divided into those game teams, camp teams. And so Adrian and I were on the same team, and we got to know the same group of kids as well.
Yeah, it's like divided into color as well. So like there's a red team, yellow team, orange team, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what were your guys' like favorite moments there? Moment.
That's so hard.
So one of my favorite moments was actually started before we even went to Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Like at one of our team meetings, we wrote like Valentine's Day cards to the kids
Oh.
because like I think in Brazil, they have like this Valentine's Day like
Okay.
but it's more like for friends and stuff, and it's like later into the year, right? Yeah. So we wrote these cards, and we have no idea who these cards were, like who's getting these cards, right?
They're just like random names on a
Yeah.
list.
But on like the last day when they were distributing the cards, one of the kids I got really close with, when I gave him like his little pack of like Valentine's Day cards, he was like really, really happy. He was even crying. It was crazy. But he was asking me like, "Oh, who wrote these cards?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea," because yeah. And then some of the cards, I think one of them was from Ohio or something. So it's not just us writing the cards; it's people from all over the U.S. And when he opened like the one from like our campus or our church, I was like, "Oh, I recognize that one. Oh, I wrote that one." That's pretty crazy. And he was like, he saw my name and he was just overjoyed because I just I was pretty that was a really nice moment.
That's
Yeah.
so sweet.
I have another highlight.
Okay, go.
So I think on the first day or so, I was playing volleyball with like these guys, and then one of the guys like so it's like it was like four of us playing volleyball, and then one of the kids there he was playing with me, and we had a pretty good time. And later that night when we were doing worship, I saw him, and he happened to be on the same team as us, but he wasn't there that morning. I think when we were like splitting up in teams, so I didn't even know. And I was just really excited to see him. He was really excited to see me as well. And then during worship, right when they started like singing, like there was this really upbeat song, he just grabbed me, and then like we started running around like in circles around the entire room while singing, and that was a really cool moment.
That's so
Aw.
cool.
Is that a brown?
No, that was Igor.
Oh, okay. I think for me, I think it was learning the flower dance. We did it with two girls from our team, and the younger one was like our team leader, and she was so excited. We like lifted her up on the stage. She was so excited about it, and it just felt like high team spirit moment because Adrian was so excited. Like once he nailed the dance, he was hyped up. Like he pretends he doesn't enjoy it, but he really did. And we really put in our all for it. Like we practiced all of free time, and he wore bows in his hair. It was like
Yeah, we all
really
like
fun.
dressed like the same as well. You know,
Yeah.
pink shirt,
You
black
guys,
pants.
do you have any pictures? Can I like put it up on the
Yeah,
screen right
definitely. I'll
Oh
send
my
it.
now?
gosh.
Yeah. Okay.
And then another really great moment for me was we have to do team chants for
Okay.
each team has to make up their own team chant, and the third person from like the third American in our group, her name is Jackie. The two of us and like two girls from our team and then one of the house parents that was on our team, we worked together on the team chant, and it was a really special moment because we didn't have a translator, so we kind of worked on it on our own, and it was in Portuguese and it was in English.
Whoa.
We learned to rap in Portuguese, kind
Oh.
of. It was a really cool moment to just create together and have fun. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so my final question is how would you convince someone to go? Because like you said earlier, like wow, 2,500 was it?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like wouldn't it be more impactful if I just like sent that money in?
Mm-hmm.
So for all those people like who are thinking that, how would you convince them? Like, no, it's important to go.
So, like, first of all, I would say like the trip is it's a lot of fun,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
you're just spending a lot of time with all these kids, and even if they don't know your name, they don't care, right? They just want to have fun. So if you're looking to have fun or like just looking to like spend every ounce of the energy you have in your body, just swimming, playing soccer, volleyball with like all these kids, like trying to speak Portuguese, right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of fun. I travel a lot, and I would say it's one of like the best trips I've ever been on, just because community and the people around you is just irreplaceable. Just super special, and I think you feel like you're going there to help the kids, but you really witness God while you're at it. You reflect a lot. It's emotional and emotionally and physically exhausting, but you just feel like so pumped by the Lord. You're like on fire for the
I
Lord.
love that.
Like every night you go to bed, you're like, how am I gonna get through the next day? And somehow you find yourself at night just
Thinking the same thing.
in like a Congo line during worship, even though you're just so tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like just going there to meet the community and just these people, like I mentioned, they're like so different from you. Like their backgrounds are completely different. They speak a different language, but meeting them and like even attempting to have a conversation with them, just it's just it's just really amazing how you're able to connect with these people with like so little words, and especially during worship, right? Some songs are in English and also in Portuguese. So like people like the Americans would be singing in English, and then all the Brazilian kids were like singing in Portuguese. And even though like sometimes the lyrics are like slightly different, but everyone's like singing the same song.
Yeah. And it's really impactful for the kids. Like being there for them is super important to help change their hearts and just know what the Lord is like, know the Lord's love. So, like, don't downplay your role in their life, because what you're doing really like strongly impacts them, and the Lord just transforms them through your time with them and the energy that you give them.
Not just them, but also you.
Yeah,
You just learn so much
Wow.
about like yourself, like your own relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna go next year
Yeah.
after hearing this.
Alexa, you
I
do a
think-
great job.
Really? So guys, I think that's it. Is there anything else that we want to cover?
Actually, I just want to like highlight the verse that we covered over the week in Brazil on what shall I render to the Lord. And I feel like you can just surrendering your time and your energy to the Lord, like he'll transform it and really like make something amazing out of it for the kids and for you. And no regrets going on the trip, like no regrets at all. I'm like, the only thing I wish I did more is like give more energy and be more present, which I mean in the moment I couldn't have done more, but just giving it your all, the Lord will make
to him
something great out of it.
And when we look at what comes after this verse in verse 12, when we look at 13 and 14, it's, I will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord, and then I will pay my vows to the Lord, in the presence of all his people. And just basically it's like saying praise the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And praising the Lord, that includes like giving the Lord your gratitude, and also just like I think part of it's like sacrificing like your time and energy, and that's exactly what we did this week for these kids.
Wow. Okay. Guys, I think that's it. Thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you for having us.
I'm really glad we got to talk about
I'm
it.
really glad I got to hear about this.
Bye. You can get a boyfriend in 10 days. Just kidding. Are we gonna cut that out? We're gonna cut that out. Thanks, Yay!
Lindsay,
Good job,
Where's
Adrian.
Lindsay?
does she want to come in?